The auction hall smelled like rust and old dreams. Kandoe stood at the back of the crowded room, his worn jacket making him look small among the wealthy buyers in their expensive suits. He was 34 years old, a salvage dealer from New Seoul Station, and he had exactly 12,000 credits to his name. Not much in a galaxy where a cup of decent coffee cost 50. The year was 2847. Humanity had spread across 12 star systems. They lived alongside dozens of alien species, trading, fighting, and surviving in an uneasy galactic economy. Do-hyun had spent 15 years buying junk and selling it for small profits. It was honest work. It was also slowly killing his spirit. His business partner, Yoon Ji-won, stood beside him with her arms crossed. She was a practical woman with sharp eyes and no patience for foolishness. They had known each other since childhood, growing up in the lower levels of New Seoul Station, where the air recyclers always hummed too loud and the lights flickered every few hours. "Why are we here?" Ji-won asked. "The good stuff sold yesterday. All that's left is garbage." Do-hyun shrugged. "Sometimes garbage hides treasure." Ji-won rolled her eyes. She had heard this philosophy many times before. It had never made them rich. The auction was held on Veka 4, a small trading moon at the edge of human space. The place was known for bankruptcy sales and desperate deals. Today's event featured the remaining assets of a shipping company that had collapsed 3 months ago. Most buyers had come for the decommissioned cargo ships and mining equipment. The valuable items had already been claimed by corporations with deep pockets. The auctioneer, a tired-looking man with gray hair, called out lot numbers in a bored voice. Lot 241 sold for 50,000 credits. Lot 242 went for 30,000. Lot 243 found no buyers and was marked for disposal. Do-hyun watched and waited. He had learned patience in his years of salvage work. The best finds came to those who stayed until the end, when everyone else had gone home. Lot 247, the auctioneer announced. An abandoned maintenance garage on the northern sector. Previously owned by... Let me check. The Palori. A murmur ran through the remaining crowd. The Palori. That was a name from history books. They had been an ancient alien race, famous for their incredible engineering skills. Some said they could build machines that bent the laws of physics. But a plague had wiped them out over 600 years ago. Their civilization had crumbled, and most of their technology had been lost or destroyed in the chaos that followed. The structure has been sealed since the Palori extinction, the auctioneer continued. No one has been able to open it. The security codes are in the Palori language, which is essentially dead. We have no idea what's inside. Could be valuable. Could be empty. Could be filled with toxic waste. Starting bid is 5,000 credits. Silence. Nobody moved. The auctioneer looked around the room. Come on, people. 5,000 credits for a piece of history. Anyone? More silence. The wealthy buyers looked at each other and shook their heads. Why would anyone pay for a building they couldn't even open? The Palori codes were legendary for being unbreakable. Dozens of experts had tried over the centuries. All had failed. Do-hyun felt something stir in his chest. It was the feeling he got sometimes, a quiet voice that whispered about possibilities. His grandmother had called it intuition. Ji-won called it stupidity. 5,000 credits, Do-hyun said, raising his hand. Ji-won grabbed his arm. What are you doing? Trusting my gut. Your gut is an idiot. The auctioneer looked surprised. We have a bid of 5,000. Do I hear 6,000? He waited. Nothing. 5,000 going once. Going twice. Sold to the gentleman in the back. Just like that, Do-hyun owned a piece of alien history. The auctioneer handed him an ownership chip with an expression that was half amusement and half pity. Good luck opening it, he said. Ji-Wan was furious during the shuttle ride to the northern sector. 5,000 credits. That's almost half of what we have. For a box we can't even open? We'll find a way, Dayan said calmly. How? The Pelori language is dead. Nobody can read it. Almost nobody. Ji-Wan stared at him. You have someone in mind. Do-hyun smiled. Do you remember Beek Sujin? The crazy linguist who got kicked out of the university for claiming she could talk to extinct species? That's the one. Sujin lived in a cluttered apartment on level 7 of New Seoul Station. When they arrived, she was surrounded by holographic displays showing ancient symbols from a dozen dead languages. She was 30 years old, with messy hair and eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them. Pelori codes? She said when Do-hyun explained the situation. Nobody has cracked Pelori codes in 600 years. That's why I came to you, Do-hyun replied. You're not nobody. Sujin studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it was the smile of someone who had been waiting her whole life for exactly this challenge. Give me 3 days, she said. She did it in 2. On the morning of the second day, Sujin called them with excitement shaking in her voice. I'm in. I broke the code. Get to the garage now. Do-hyun and Ji-Wan rushed across Veka 4 in a rented transport. The garage stood alone in the northern sector, a squat building made of strange metal that had not rusted in 6 centuries. Sujin was waiting at the entrance, her fingers dancing over a small device connected to the door panel. The Pelori were geniuses, she explained quickly. But they made one mistake. They assumed no one would care enough to try. The code is complex, but it's not impossible. It just needed someone patient enough to listen. She pressed a final button. The ancient doors groaned. Dust fell from seams that had been sealed for 600 years. Slowly, painfully, the garage began to open. Stale air rushed out, carrying the smell of time itself. Emergency lights flickered to life inside, revealing shadows and shapes that Do-hyun could not yet identify. He took a deep breath and stepped forward into the darkness. He had paid 5,000 credits for this moment. He had no idea that he had just bought himself a place in galactic history. The emergency lights cast long shadows across the garage floor. Do-hyun stood just inside the entrance, letting his eyes adjust to the dim glow. Behind him, Ji-Wan and Sujin waited in tense silence. The air was thick with dust that had settled over 600 years of emptiness. Nobody move, Do-hyun said quietly. We don't know what's in here. He pulled a small flashlight from his pocket and clicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing shapes covered in preservation tarps. Rows and rows of sealed containers lined the walls. Strange machines stood silent in the corners, their purposes unknown. Ji-Wan stepped inside carefully. This place is huge. Much bigger than it looked from outside. She was right. The garage extended deep into the ground, with multiple levels visible through metal grating. The Pelori had built downward, hiding the true size of their storage facility beneath the surface. Sujin moved to one of the sealed containers. She wiped dust from its surface, revealing Pelori symbols etched into the metal. These are inventory markers. The Pelori cataloged everything they stored. Can you read them? Do-hyun asked. Give me time. While Sujin worked on translating the symbols, Do-hyun explored the main floor. Most of the covered shapes were equipment of some kind. He recognized basic forms: power generators, fabrication units, medical devices. But the designs were unlike anything he had seen before. The Pelori had been engineers far beyond human capability. Then he saw a dot in the center of the garage. Larger than everything else, stood a shape covered by a massive tarp. It was the size of a small ship. Do-hyun felt his heart beat faster as he approached. Something about this shape felt different, important. He grabbed the edge of the tarp and pulled. The fabric fell away in a cloud of dust, and Doing stopped breathing. It was a ship, but not just any ship. The hull was made of a metal that seemed to shift colors as he looked at it. The design was elegant and strange, with curves that flowed like water frozen in motion. Even covered in dust, it was the most beautiful thing Da-Yun had ever seen. "What is that?" Ji-won whispered. She had come up behind him, and her voice was filled with wonder. Sujin joined them, her eyes wide. "That's impossible. That can't be real. What is it?" Do-hyun asked. Sujin's hands were shaking. "It's a void weaver. A Polari void weaver. They were ships that could bend space itself, travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Only 3 were ever confirmed to exist, and all of them were supposed to be destroyed." Do-hyun touched the hull. It was warm under his fingers, as if the ship was still alive after 6 centuries. "But it's here. It's here," Sujin confirmed. Ji-won was already pulling out her comm device. "I'm running the ship's signature through galactic databases. If this is really a void weaver, it should be registered somewhere." They waited in tense silence as the device processed the information. Minutes passed. Then the screen flashed green. "Authentication confirmed," Ji-won read. "Polari void weaver. Designation unknown. Status intact. Estimated value." She stopped talking. Her face went pale. "What?" Do-hyun asked. "How much?" Ji-won looked at him with an expression he had never seen before. Fear and excitement mixed together. 1.8 trillion galactic credits. Conservative estimate. The number hung in the air. Trillion, not million. Not billion. Trillion. Do-hyun sat down on the dusty floor. His legs would not hold him anymore. He had paid 5,000 credits for this garage. 5,000 credits for a ship worth nearly 2 trillion. But Sujin was already moving to the sealed containers. "There's more." The inventory markers list hundreds of items. Medical devices. Energy cores. Fabrication templates. She opened one container and gasped. "These are Polari healing units. They could cure diseases that kill millions every year." She opened another container. Power cores. Each one could run a space station for a century. Another container. Fabrication templates. With these, we could build Polari technology from scratch. Ji-won was running calculations on her device. Her hands were shaking now too. If these inventories are accurate, total value of everything in this garage, estimated at 2.3 trillion credits. Do-hyun laughed. It was a strange sound in the ancient garage, mixing with the dust and silence. 2.3 trillion. I paid 5,000. "You're the luckiest man in the galaxy," Ji-won said. But Sujin was not smiling. She had moved deeper into the garage, to a console covered in Polari symbols. Her fingers traced the markings, and her expression grew darker with each word she translated. "There's something else," she said quietly. "A message stored in the data cores. The Polari left it here intentionally." "What does it say?" Do-hyun asked. Sujin turned to face them. Her eyes were haunted. The Polari didn't die from a plague. Not exactly. They were hunted. Something came for them? Something they called the Silent Tide. It erases civilizations when they grow too advanced. The Polari saw it coming, but they couldn't stop it. The temperature in the garage seemed to drop. Do-hyun felt a chill run down his spine. "They hid their technology here," Sujin continued. "Not as treasure. As a warning. And as a weapon." "A weapon?" Ji-won asked. Sujin pointed at the Void Weaver. "That ship? It's not just fast. The Polari designed it to fight the Silent Tide. They never got to use it. They were destroyed before they could finish their plan. But they left everything here, hoping someone would find it." Someone who could finish what they started. Diane stood up slowly. He looked at the beautiful ship, the containers full of miraculous technology, the ancient message left by a dead race. He had come looking for salvage. He had found something much more dangerous. So this isn't just a treasure, he said. It's a responsibility. Sujin nodded. The Pelori are watching from beyond the grave. They chose to hide their legacy here, on this forgotten moon. And now it belongs to you. Ji-Wan grabbed Do-Hyun's arm. We need to think about this carefully. 2 trillion credits makes you the richest human alive. But it also makes you the biggest target in the galaxy. When word gets out about this, she didn't need to finish. Do-Hyun understood. Governments would want this technology. Corporations would kill for it. Criminals would do worse. He looked at his 2 companions. Ji-Wan, the practical one who had followed him through years of struggle. Sujin, the brilliant outcast who had cracked the code no one else could. They were standing in the middle of the greatest discovery in human history. And somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, the silent tide was waiting. Do-Hyun made a decision. We tell no one. Not yet. First, we need to understand what we have. Then we need to figure out what to do with it. Ji-Wan nodded slowly. Agreed. Sujin was already heading back to the data cores. I'll keep translating. The Pelori left instructions. If we can understand them, maybe we can understand how to fight back. Do-Hyun walked back to the Void Weaver. He placed his hand on its hull again, feeling the warmth beneath his palm. The ship seemed to pulse under his touch, as if recognizing a new owner. I don't know if I'm the right person for this, he whispered to the empty garage. But I'm the one who found you. So I guess we're stuck with each other. The ship did not answer. But somewhere deep in its systems, something stirred. The Pelori had placed their hope in a stranger. Now that stranger had a choice to make. They managed to keep the secret for exactly 3 days. Then everything fell apart. Do-Hyun never learned who talked. Maybe it was the auctioneer who got curious about his strange purchase. Maybe someone saw them entering the garage too many times. Maybe the galactic networks had monitoring systems that detected the Void Weaver coming back online. It did not matter. By the 4th day, his comlink would not stop buzzing. The first message came from a corporation called Stellar Industries. They offered 200 billion credits for exclusive access to the garage contents. Do-Hyun deleted the message without responding. The second message came from the government of the Threll Hegemony, one of the most powerful alien civilizations in the galaxy. They did not make an offer. They made a demand. Surrender the Pelori technology immediately or face consequences. The third message came from a name Do-Hyun did not recognize. It contained only 2 words, "We're coming." By noon, there were hundreds of messages. Corporations, governments, collectors, scientists, journalists. Everyone wanted a piece of what he had found. His personal comlink address, which he had kept private for years, was suddenly known across the galaxy. G1 burst into the garage with panic in her eyes. We have a problem. A big one. I know, Do-Hyun said. The messages. It's worse than messages. There are ships arriving at Vecca 4. Dozens of them. News crews, corporate scouts, and 3 Threll warships that just entered orbit. Do-Hyun felt cold. Warships? The hegemony is not playing games. They want this technology, and they don't care about auction laws or human ownership rights. Sujin looked up from her translation work. The Threll were rivals of the Pelori 6 centuries ago. They always wanted Pelori technology but could never get it. This is their chance. So what do we do? Ji-Wan asked. We can't fight warships. We're salvage dealers. Do-Hyun thought for a long moment. Then he pulled out his personal comlink and made a call he had hoped he would never need to make. Han Min-jae answered on the second ring. His face appeared on the screen, older than Do-hyun remembered, with gray hair and scars that told stories of battles survived. Min-jae had been a captain in the Earth Defense Fleet for 20 years before retiring to run private security. He was tough, honest, and he owed Do-hyun a favor from years ago. Do-hyun, Min-jae said, I've been watching the news. You've made yourself famous. I need help, Min-jae. The kind you specialize in. Min-jae nodded slowly. I figured you'd call. I'm already on my way. Be there in 6 hours. True to his word, Min-jae arrived with a small ship and a crew of 12 veterans. They were men and women who had seen combat across the galaxy. Not soldiers anymore, but not soft either. They carried weapons with the ease of people who knew how to use them. Min-jae walked through the garage and studied the Void Weaver with professional interest. You really stepped in it this time, old friend. Can you protect it? Do-hyun asked. From corporate spies and petty criminals? Yes, from 3 Thrall warships. Min-jae shook his head. I've got 12 people and 1 security vessel. The Thrall have enough firepower to turn this whole moon into dust. So we're finished, Ji-won said quietly. I didn't say that. Min-jae walked to the garage entrance and looked up at the sky. The Thrall are bullies, but they're not stupid. They won't attack while the whole galaxy is watching. Right now, there are news crews from 100 worlds pointed at this location. Any aggressive move would cause a diplomatic disaster. But they can't wait us out, Sujin pointed out. Eventually, the news crews will leave. Eventually, we'll run out of supplies. Eventually, we'll have to come out. Min-jae smiled grimly. Then we need to make sure we're not alone when that happens. He started making calls of his own. To old military contacts. To friends in the shipping industry. To anyone who might listen. A human made a legal purchase and is being threatened by an alien military, he told them. This isn't about treasure anymore. It's about principle. It's about whether humans can be pushed around. The response surprised everyone. Ships began arriving at Veka 4. Not warships. Cargo haulers. Mining vessels. Personal transports. Retired veterans who still had their old fighter craft. Civilian ships with no weapons at all. Piloted by ordinary people who had heard the story and decided to show up. By the end of the second day. Over 200 human vessels had formed a ragged line between the Polari garage and the Thrall. Warships. Do-hyun stood at the garage entrance, watching the lights of the ships against the dark sky. Who are all these people? Min-jae stood beside him. Humans. Regular humans who don't like seeing one of their own threatened. They can't fight the Thrall. Most of them couldn't fight their way out of a cargo hold. But they showed up anyway. Why? Because that's what humans do. We stick together when it matters. The Thrall commander sent a message demanding that the human ships disperse. The message was ignored. The commander sent another message, threatening to open fire on any vessel that interfered with hegemony business. One of the cargo haulers, a rusty ship called the Lucky Star, sent back a single reply. Come and try it. The standoff continued. News coverage spread across the galaxy. Other species watched with fascination, as hundreds of humans faced down warships for the sake of one salvage dealer and his strange discovery. Then the Earth Confederation got involved. Park Yoonji arrived on the 5th day. She was the youngest ambassador in human history, only 31 years old, with a reputation for being both brilliant and fearless. She had been sent directly by the Earth Council to handle the situation. She walked into the garage and looked at the Void Weaver with calm appreciation. So this is what all the fuss is about. Ambassador, Do-hyun said nervously. I didn't mean to cause a diplomatic incident. Yoonji smiled. You bought property at a legal auction. You've done nothing wrong. The Thrall are the ones causing an incident. She turned to face him directly. The Earth Confederation is prepared to back your claim, officially and publicly. The question is, what do you plan to do with what you found? Do-yoon hesitated. He looked at Ji-won, at Sujin, at Min-jae. He looked at the Void Weaver and the containers full of Polori technology. He thought about the message from the dead race, warning of the silent tide. I don't know yet, he admitted. But I know I'm not giving it to the Throw, and I'm not running away. Yoonji nodded. Good answer. She pulled out her own comm device and sent a message to the Throw fleet. This is Ambassador Park Yoonji of the Earth Confederation. The property in question belongs to a human citizen who acquired it through legal means. Any attempt to seize it by force will be considered an act of war against humanity. We await your response. The galaxy held its breath. Inside the Thrall flagship, Commander Vosh studied the human ships surrounding Vika 4. His officers waited for orders. The technology in that garage was worth more than whole planets. It should belong to the hegemony. It should belong to a civilization worthy of its power. But destroying those human ships would mean war. And the humans, for all their weaknesses, were stubborn fighters. The last war with humanity had cost the hegemony dearly. Vosh made his decision. Withdraw, he ordered quietly. This is not worth the cost. Not today. The Thrall warships turned and left Veka 4 orbit. News of their retreat spread across the galaxy within hours. Do-hyun watched them go from the garage entrance. Around him, the crews of the human ships were cheering. They had won. Against all odds, they had won. But Sujin's voice cut through the celebration. This isn't over. The Thrall will be back. Others will come too. And somewhere out there, the silent tide is still waiting. She was right. They had survived the first challenge. The real test was still to come. The Thrall withdrawal changed everything. For the first time in galactic history, a group of ordinary humans had faced down an alien superpower and won. The story spread to every corner of civilization. News programs replayed footage of the ragged human fleet standing firm against warships. Children across a dozen worlds learned the name Kang, Duhai and Dot, but with fame came new problems. The garage on Vika 4 became the most watched location in the galaxy. Ships from every species arrived daily, hoping to catch a glimpse of the legendary Void Weaver. Security became a nightmare. Min-jae's team worked around the clock, turning away curious visitors and identifying potential threats. Inside the garage, Sujin continued her translation work. The Polori data cores contained vast amounts of information, and she had only scratched the surface. Every day brought new revelations about the ancient race and their technology. The Void Weaver isn't just fast, she explained to the group one evening. The Polori designed it as a response to the silent tide. It can detect the tide's approach. It can track their movements. With enough power, it might even be able to fight them. Fight them how? Ji-won asked. I'm not sure yet. The records are incomplete. But the Polori believed it was possible. Ambassador Yoonji had stayed on Veka 4 after the Thrall withdrawal. She represented Earth's official interest in the discovery, but she had also become something of a friend to the group. She listened to Sujin's reports with growing concern. If the silent tide is real, Yoonji said slowly, then this technology isn't just valuable. It's essential. The galaxy needs it. The galaxy wants to take it, Do-hyun pointed out. The Thrall, the corporations. Everyone sees treasure, not responsibility. Then maybe we need to change what they see. Before they could discuss further, alarms began ringing throughout the garage. Min-jae rushed in with his weapon drawn. We have incoming, he reported. Multiple contacts. Not Thrall this time. Mixed signatures from at least 6 different species. Looks like a coalition. They hurried to the communications array. On the screen, A fleet of ships was approaching Veka 4. The vessels came from different civilizations, each marked with official government symbols. This was not a pirate raid or a corporate takeover. This was an organized diplomatic force. A transmission came through. The speaker was a tall alien with blue-gray skin and 3 eyes arranged in a triangle on its face. Do-hyun recognized the species as the Vellani, known throughout the galaxy as mediators and peacekeepers. Human vessel and residents of the Palori structure, the alien said formally. I am First Speaker Korath of the Galactic Assembly. We represent the combined interests of 47 civilizations. We wish to discuss the disposition of the Palori technology. Yoonji stepped forward to respond. First Speaker, I am Ambassador Park Yoonji of the Earth Confederation. We welcome peaceful dialogue. Excellent, Korath replied. We request a meeting on neutral ground. The assembly ship Harmony will serve as the location. You may bring your delegation. We guarantee safe passage. The transmission ended. Everyone looked at Do-hyun. They want to negotiate, Ji-won said. That's better than fighting. Or they want to pressure us into giving up, Min-jae countered. 47 civilizations is a lot of weight to throw around. Do-hyun thought for a long moment. Then he nodded. We go. But we go on our terms. Sujin, bring everything you've translated about the Silent Tide. If they want to talk about the technology, we're going to talk about why it exists. The assembly ship Harmony was the largest vessel Do-hyun had ever seen. It was designed to host representatives from hundreds of species, with meeting halls that could accommodate any body shape or environmental requirement. The delegation from Veka 4 was led to a central chamber where representatives from dozens of civilizations waited. First, Speaker Korath stood at the head of the assembly. We are gathered to discuss a matter of galactic significance. The Palori technology discovered on Veka 4 represents knowledge and power that could reshape civilization. The question before us is simple. Who should control it? A Thrall representative stood immediately. The hegemony has the most advanced infrastructure to utilize Palori technology safely. We propose joint custody with primary control granted to Thrall scientists. Other representatives objected. Voices rose as different species argued for their own claims. The chamber became chaotic with competing demands and accusations. Do-hyun waited. He let them argue. He let them show the galaxy exactly what they cared about. Then he stood up. The chamber fell silent. Every eye turned to the human salvage dealer who had started all of this. You're asking the wrong question, Do-hyun said quietly. You're asking who should control the treasure. But that's not what this is. Let me tell you what I found in that garage. He gestured to Sujin, who activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing the Palori message, translated into common galactic script. The Palori didn't die from a plague, Do-hyun continued. They were erased. Something called the Silent Tide came for them because they grew too advanced. The Palori saw it coming. They tried to prepare. They failed. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some representatives looked skeptical. Others looked afraid. The technology in that garage wasn't hidden as treasure, Do-hyun said. It was hidden as a warning. And as a weapon. The Void Weaver was designed to fight the Silent Tide. The Palori never got to use it. They left it for whoever came next. First Speaker Korath leaned forward. You suggest this Silent Tide is a real threat? The Palori thought so. They were smarter than any of us. I'm not going to bet against them. And what do you propose, human? That we simply trust you with technology worth trillions of credits? With weapons that could threaten entire civilizations? Do-hyun smiled. It was a tired smile, the smile of a man who had been thinking about this question for weeks. No, he said. I propose something different. I propose that we share it. The chamber erupted. Share? Give away the greatest treasure in galactic history. Do-hyun waited for the noise to die down. The Pelori were the richest species in history. They had technology beyond anything we can imagine. It didn't save them. You know why? Because they faced the silent tide alone. He looked around the chamber at the representatives of 47 civilizations. If the tide comes back, it won't care about borders. It won't care about politics. It will erase us all, one by one, just like it erased the Pelori. Unless we're ready. Unless we work together. You speak of unity, the Thrall representative sneered. Easy words from someone who stands to profit. I don't want profit, Do-hyun said. I want to survive. I want humanity to survive. I want all of us to survive. And that means nobody owns this technology. We all own it. We all use it. We all prepare together. Ambassador Yoonji stood beside him. The Earth Confederation supports this proposal. Full sharing of Pelori technology with all willing civilizations. Joint research programs. Combined defense initiatives. First speaker Korath was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke slowly. This is unprecedented. No species has ever voluntarily shared an advantage of this magnitude. Then let humans be the first, Yoonji replied. Maybe that's what it takes. Maybe someone needs to start trusting first. The vote took 3 hours. Different civilizations argued and debated. Some refused to participate. The Thrall representative stormed out in protest. But when the final count came, the result was clear. 31 civilizations voted to accept the sharing proposal. 16 abstained or opposed. The motion passed. Do-hyun sat down heavily as the chamber erupted in activity. Ji-won was beside him, her expression still shocked. You just gave away 2 trillion credits, she said. I gave away a curse, Do-hyun replied. And maybe bought us a chance. Sujin was already planning with scientists from other species, discussing research timelines and translation projects. Minjae was coordinating with security forces from friendly civilizations, establishing protocols for protecting the Veka 4 site. Ambassador Yoonji approached Do-hyun quietly. You know the Thrall won't accept this. They'll keep trying. I know. And the silent tide. If it's real, then we'll face it together. That's the whole point. Yoonji nodded slowly. Humanity just changed the galaxy. Because of one salvage dealer who bought a garage nobody wanted. Do-hyun laughed softly. I'm still that salvage dealer. Just with more paperwork now? Outside the assembly ship, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere in that darkness, something waited. Something patient. Something hungry. But for the first time, the galaxy was getting ready to meet it. Together. 5 years passed. The small garage on Veka 4 had transformed into something much larger. Buildings spread across the northern sector now. Research facilities and medical centers built by dozens of species working side by side. The Pelori Archive, as it came to be known, employed over 10,000 scientists, engineers, and translators. What had once been a forgotten moon was now the most important research center in the galaxy. Kang, Do-hyun stood on a balcony overlooking the complex. He was 39 years old now, his hair showing the first hints of gray. He wore a simple jacket, refusing the expensive clothes that others in his position might have chosen. He was still, in his heart, a salvage dealer from New Seoul Station. Ji-won joined him on the balcony. She had become the archive's chief administrator, handling the endless paperwork and logistics that kept the massive organization running. She looked tired but satisfied. The medical distribution numbers came in, she said. The Pelori healing units have now treated over 2 billion patients across 40 worlds. Diseases that were death sentences 5 years ago are now curable. Do-hyun nodded slowly. He had seen the reports. Children surviving cancers that would have killed them. Elderly citizens walking again after decades of paralysis. Entire populations saved from plagues that had threatened to wipe them out. And the energy cores? He asked. 17 planets have switched to Polori power systems. Clean, unlimited energy. No more burning fossil fuels. No more radiation risks. The environmental recovery on some worlds has been remarkable. These were the numbers that mattered to Do-hyun. Not the credits he could have earned. Not the power he could have claimed. The lives saved. The suffering ended. The futures made possible. Sujin appeared at the balcony door. She had become the archive's lead translator and historical researcher. Her work on the Polari language had earned her recognition across the galaxy. The university that had kicked her out now named buildings after her. She ignored the honors and kept working. "We've finished translating the final Polari records," she reported. "The complete technical specifications for the Void Weaver are now available. And there's something else. A message hidden in the deepest layer of data. Another warning?" Do-hyun asked. "A hope." Sujin smiled, and it was a genuine smile, something rare for her. The Polori didn't just leave their technology. They left a dream. A vision of what could be possible if civilizations worked together instead of fighting each other. They called it the Unified Path. "Sounds idealistic," Ji-won said. "Maybe, but look around us." Sujin gestured at the complex below, where beings from 30 different species walked together, worked together, ate meals together. "We're doing it. Not perfectly, not easily, but we're doing it." Han Min-jae climbed the stairs to join them. He was the archive's security director now, commanding a force drawn from dozens of civilizations. The threats had not stopped coming. Corporate raiders. Extremist groups. The Thrall hegemony still made occasional attempts to steal technology. But the combined defenses had held. "Fleet report," Min-jae said. The Void Weaver completed its latest patrol of the outer systems. No signs of silent tide activity. The early warning network is fully operational across 700 light years. The Void Weaver. It had taken 3 years to fully restore the ancient ship to working condition. Now it served as the flagship of a small but growing defense fleet, patrolling the edges of explored space, watching for any sign of the threat the Polori had warned about. Do-hyun had never flown in it. He had handed control to professional pilots, military commanders who knew how to use such power responsibly. Some had criticized him for not keeping the ship for himself. He had ignored them. "There's a visitor requesting to see you," Min-jae added. "Ambassador Korath from the Vallani. Says it's important." Korath arrived an hour later. The tall alien had aged since their first meeting at the Galactic Assembly. His 3 eyes moved more slowly now, and his blue-gray skin had faded to a lighter shade. But his voice was still strong. "Kang Do-hyun," he said formally. "Thank you for receiving me." "First speaker," Do-hyun replied with equal formality. "What brings you to the archive?" "I wish to see what you have built, and to deliver news." Korath paused. The Thrall hegemony has formally requested membership in the Archive's Research Alliance. They wish to join rather than oppose. Do-hyun raised his eyebrows. The Thrall had been hostile for 5 years. They had tried threats, sanctions, and sabotage. Now they wanted in. What changed their minds? "Results," Korath said simply. "The civilizations that joined your alliance are thriving. They have better medicine, better energy, better technology. The Thrall cannot compete anymore by staying outside." Pride eventually loses to practicality. It was a victory, Do-hyun realized. Perhaps the greatest victory of all. Not through war. Not through force. Through demonstrating a better way and waiting for others to follow. "We'll accept them," Do-hyun said. "Same terms as everyone else. Full sharing. full cooperation. Korath nodded. I expected you would say that. The alien studied Do-Yun with his 3 eyes. You know, when I first met you, I thought you were a fool. A human salvage dealer who had stumbled into something too big for him to handle. I expected you to sell the technology to the highest bidder and disappear with your credits. What do you think now? I think you are either the wisest being I have ever met, or the luckiest. Perhaps both. Korath made a sound that might have been a laugh. Humans are strange creatures. You fight each other constantly over trivial matters. Yet when something truly important appears, you unite in ways that surprise everyone, including yourselves. After Korath left, Do-Hyun walked through the archive alone. He passed laboratories where alien scientists worked on problems that had baffled their species for centuries. He passed medical centers where patients received treatments that would have been impossible 5 years ago. He passed classrooms where young beings from dozens of worlds learned together, forming friendships that crossed the boundaries of species and culture. In the central hall, the Void Weaver stood in its display position when not on patrol. Engineers were performing maintenance on its systems, humans and aliens working side by side. The beautiful ship gleamed under the lights, its hull still shifting colors like it had on the day Do-Yun first uncovered it. He stopped and looked up at it. Remembered that moment when he had pulled back the tarp and first seen what his 5,000 credits had bought. G1 found him there. She stood beside him quietly for a while before speaking. Any regrets? About what? You could have been the richest human in history. You gave it all away. Do-Hyun thought about the question seriously. He thought about the credits he could have had. The power. The luxury. The things money could buy. Then he thought about the 2 billion patients healed by Polori medicine. The world saved by clean energy. The children who would grow up in a galaxy that was learning, slowly and painfully, to work together instead of against itself. The Polori were the richest species in history, he said finally. It didn't save them. Maybe sharing will save us. You really believe that? I have to. Because if I'm wrong, we're all gonna die anyway. Might as well die having done something good. Ji-won laughed. It was the laugh of someone who had known him for decades, who remembered the young salvage dealer with nothing but hope and stubbornness. You're still the same person who bought a garage nobody wanted. Someone had to, Do-Hyun replied. And now someone has to make sure what we found in that garage actually helps people. Might as well be me. Far away, at the edge of explored space, the Void Weaver's sensors swept the darkness between stars. Watching, waiting. The silent tide had not appeared. Not yet, but the galaxy was more ready now than it had ever been. Not because of weapons, not because of technology, because of something the Polori had never managed to achieve. Unity. On Bucka 4. In the heart of the archive he had created, Kang Do-Hyun smiled at the ship that had changed his life. He was still a salvage dealer, in some ways. Still finding value in things others had. Forgotten. But now the things he salvaged were hopes, dreams, the chance for a better future. And those were worth far more than 2 trillion credits. Somewhere, perhaps the Polori were watching. And perhaps for the first time in 600 years, they were pleased with what they saw. Their treasure had found its purpose. And humanity had proven its worth. Not through strength. Through kindness. Through courage. Through being exactly what humans had always been. At their very best. A species that chose to share.